Ray Vaughn says relatable rap is making a comeback. Okay? Now keep in mind, this kid is 29. So Ray Vaughn's not exactly an old head, but he's old enough to see the shift, right? So he says fans are craving substance again. Now this hits home for me because we all have been outside and we know that the deeper records that we listen to tend to stick to us a little bit more than just the singles or the average stuff that comes out. But what if the return of real rap isn't just about lyrics? What if it's about a connection between, the artist and the creative? The need for something that feels true again. Like we've all had this conversation before, but I want you guys to see this video of him talking about it. And then I have a couple questions I want to pose.
For men, it's like, women taking over this sport.
I think that is, though. Why?
Because I don't know. It might be the ass. I think, me personally, people, like the music that people are putting out, it lacks so much substance that people are hungry for, like, lyricists like me, Doechii, Chris Patrick, like Marco Plus, like stuff that real music. So when they hear music like that, they're like, it's like refreshing again. And I feel like we're going to go through another SoundCloud era like what it is later on in life, and it's going to be like that again. It's just repeating itself. But now they want the real music, the real stuff that's going to hold them, because we be going through some shit. So, we need music. We need life. What type call it? Human music.
Human music. That
people can turn on, listen to in the car, on their way to work, when they're getting off of work, they can go to the gym, not just in the club.
So, keep in mind, this gentleman is 29 years old. Are you surprised to hear a rapper that's on the rise at this age to be speaking like this about substance as it relates to rap?
No.
You guys are not shocked?
No. I mean, there's...
I like how he broke it down. I mean, I think that's dope, but...
I mean, let's not act like Ray Vaughns have not existed in every single era.
Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair.
And that, just because what's super popular right now doesn't mean that there's subsects of hip hop that thrive in their own type of realm. Like, I think if your understanding of hip hop and rap music is what I like to call it, is what's popular, then sure, maybe you might be surprised a little bit, but nobody sitting here is going to be surprised at that. I don't think. I could be wrong.
So you're saying maybe people that might be on the surface level or something like that, they may be more surprised versus a more mature.
I mean, look, rap music is popular.
Yeah.
It's the most popular genre right now, right? And so we've had this conversation on the show many times. Not everything that exists within rap music is what we would call hip hop music. Are we going to call Forgiato Blow hip hop? Are we going to call what's that other MAGA rapper?
Tom McDonald.
We gonna call Tom McDonald hip hop?
Yeah,
probably not. No,
absolutely not.
He raps.
He does rap.
Yeah.
We have a lot of popularized rap music that is just created in from my perspective, just for the sake of because it's popular. And then I think they exist in different type of frames of. There's different existences for it. So, that's just kind of how I look at it.
I frame it too as 29 really isn't that young.
It's not that young.
When you consider being in the hip hop game.
Especially now.
Yeah, we just had a conversation about rap was considered a young man's game. So back in the day, you might have came out when you were 19, 20 years old.
He was 19.
He would have already been in the game for 10 years. So he's kind of an elder statesman when it comes to what hip hop was at one point in time.
You think he's elder at around 20? Knocking on being an elder, right?
He's in that realm. You know what I'm saying? So being 29 and still being true to the type of music that he related to and taking that energy and putting out the music. I don't think that's I don't think it's anything new, and I don't think that it's going to create this wave of people that are going to appreciate that sound. I mean, it's ill because we're still kind of pulling at straws for people to actually admit that Kendrick is that dude. And that's his genre. I mean, that's what he does. They ain't going to admit it. Mm-hmm. So they still want the bullshit music, and it takes it's it's a different type of ear that listens to a Ray Vaughn, a Kendrick, who he say Doechii, and other artists that he talked about. Again, there's going to be segments of hip hop that people are going to appreciate, and somebody else might steer to some that you might deem irresponsible or bullshit. But I mean, it is what it is. I mean, like what you like.
Yep.
Jump in, Kinetik.
Well, I always remind myself it's a business.
Yep.
So what you say as an MC, whether you do it on purpose or not, there's a business aspect to it. It is a sales pitch. So to say that, man, how many times have we heard that? So that's not to say he's wrong, but I do keep that in my mind. So no, I'm not surprised by that. But then I also have to remind myself sometimes stuff that we think is real popular, sometimes it ain't as popular as we think it is. Especially depending on how invested you are in hip hop. When you're like close level, like, you know, not a 10,000 foot view, when you're like 10-foot view of like hip hop, it's easy to feel like, dang, this is overwhelming. But if you zoom out and you talk to people, like, fortunately, I'm married to someone who's not a head.
Yeah.
But likes rap enough. So her perspective about it always keeps me in check that, like, what I think is really going on, it ain't that deep sometimes.
Sure.
And like, there's more people who are not listening to what I think they're listening to and are going to be okay with that. So like, I'm surprised, like by Doechii, for example, there are a lot of people who listen to Doechii. I'm like, damn, I didn't realize that many people listen to Doechii.
I think that's dope too.
Yeah, because I'm too busy thinking about, well, a lot of people listen to this, and a lot of people listen to that. I just have to remove myself from that sometimes. So I'm glad that he said that. He's not wrong, but you know, I listen to a lot of Mick Jenkins. I feel like Mick Jenkins is very relatable
now.
Sure. He's also one of the dopest MCs.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Come on.
But yeah, like, I mean, it's, so to hear him say that, I'm like, yeah, you'll fit into a lane that I'm already, you know, semi-aware of. But you also can't ignore escapism. Like, man, sometimes some people are going through so much that they don't want to hear that.
Yep.
We talked about that a little last week.
I don't want to hear that. My life is already enough. Like, yes, I'm cool with club music because I don't want to hear all of that. So like, sometimes I get in my car and listen to Playboy Cardi. Why?
Yeah.
Because I don't want to hear all that sometimes. I don't want to hear you talking about all your life problems.
Yeah, I
and,
absolutely don't want to hear all
yeah,
that.
the upper essence.
Whatever
and how,
Playboy Cardi's doing, I don't want to hear whatever the hell that
you
is.
know, oh man, come on, Magnolia's a great record, man. You got to get into
Rod
it.
Wave?
Woke Up Like This, man.
Y'all-
Come on, man.
Y'all Rod Wave
Yeah,
fans?
some Moneybag Yo, man. I listen to Moneybag Yo. yeah.
My
Playboy Cardi's a whole nother level.
Yeah.
Rod
Them
Wave
beats is fresh, though.
Rod Wave
Pierre
is
Pierre, come out here.
Rod Wave is he's a little it's good music, but it's more of a downer for me. But I like Big Extra Plug. That's
Do
he's
you
fire.
really?
I
Yeah, he's
do.
fire.
I like Big Extra Plug.
Wow.
Didn't think I would like him, but I had to
Wow.
take my old school backpack off and actually listen to the kid.
Wow.
He makes some pretty
You
good
drinking
records.
Casamigos now too then? Or like, how far are we going?
Bro, he had some country records on his last joint. I was like, I like this song. I like
Nah, he
this
got a good
one.
album.
I like this
You
one.
know.
It's something about the kid's
A
personality.
lot of white kids like him too.
Hey, and he's
For
I didn't
real.
know that.
Oh yeah.
I didn't know that part, but I will
Yeah.
say this.
It's easy to listen to.
It's
It's
easy to listen
accessible.
to, and he is a student. I hear him talking about his influences and older artists, so you could tell some soul in the music. So
Well, you come out
I
rapping on a Whispers beat, man. Yeah, that already told me everything. I didn't
come
even
on,
know.
man. Some of the samples he
Yeah,
picked,
yeah.
Isley Brothers, like somebody put him on. So that's why I like him. But I don't want to steer away from what we're talking about.
He
But
from the city.
yeah, I fool with him. I
Yeah.
fool with Big X. Jay, what do you think about this in terms of this topic and Ray, and what he said in the video?
I mean, I think it goes back to what Kinetik said. This is a sales pitch for him. At least that's how I feel. And I think there's some truth to it. Yes, because there's always going to be that music that hits you where you are. Like, you brought up Respiration. I don't know what it was about that particular record,
Mhm.
but I felt like where I was in my life and like just kind of a weird crossroads and seeing things with a new set of eyes, being an adult. I
Yeah.
could say I was living as an adult, at that time. That just struck me, and I feel like that's one of those records that will always have a special place to me because it was so real. It was it was so divorced from what honestly I was, because I was working in radio. As some people say, I point out too much, but that's where I was living. And, and also I was going to the clubs and like the music was good for what it was good for.
Mm-hmm.
This is 99, 2000, so this is when Hard Knock Life was crazy.
Yeah.
This is when DMX, we're
Rough
coming
Riders, yeah.
we're coming out of the bling era,
There you
if
go.
you will, and moving into another, stratosphere of commercial hip hop.
Yeah.
There you go.
So when I heard certain things,
Sound
I was
bomber,
like,
yeah.
okay, I feel like I mean, I hate to even make it seem like I remember when I first heard Tribe Called Quest and De La Soul, even though they were from, an element, if you will, especially if you know the stories about De La Soul and Road, they were not to be played with. These were kids that I felt like I had more grown up with, not even specifically just it had more of a middle class sensibility, if you will.
It's from Long Island.
Yeah. So, I mean, and I felt that even from Black Star, if you will, because these were like these felt like kids I grew up with, like, they might have been in Jack and Jill, but they still knew where they were from.
Mos Def was on sitcoms and and what's name's dad was like some important.
Yeah. So I mean, there's always been hip hop that I felt I related to, more on a personal level, but we can't get away from the escapism. There's not just a part of hip hop, but a part of the lineage of black music as a whole.
Yeah.
They are always talking about things in the music that they don't have yet. They're hoping maybe they sell enough records and, they can have a Benz or a Beamer. There are guys that were sleeping on their couch with hit records and, everything they talked about wasn't their immediate reality. And they're talking to us about things that are not their immediate reality.
David Banner was living in a van.
Yeah,
100%.
making beats out of it too.
So, can I ask both of you gentlemen a question? Because you guys are kind of going down the same path as it relates to this. But I heard you talk about a pitch, sales pitch, marketing, promotion. Are you alluding to the fact that this is inauthentic?
No, I think it's just he wants people to listen to his music.
Okay. I wanted clarification.
Oh, no,
because we're in an era where everything there are things that can just be pitched for the sake of social media, for the sake of being likes. So that's why I wanted to clarify, because I took it as authentic. That's why I wanted
it seems in earnest to me. It does. Yeah. I mean, it's just, only time will tell based off of how he does or whatever. But no, it didn't seem phony. He seemed credible. And I don't know. We've been around this long enough to know, that seems authentic.
True.
And
there's been times where we've seen things that have appeared to be authentic and been 100% bullshit. We've been around long enough to see it.
Oh, there's some names. That
there you go.
Up.
But
boy.
Even in sales pitch, do you think? And this is something that, of course, comes up from era to era, where there's almost like this class warfare in hip hop, to where it's like, well, if you are intelligent and read books and go to work and take care of your kids, you'll like this. Instead of, and they'll, he didn't say any names, but he could have, but we could all, okay, it is what it is. Sexy Red. If it's, some people try to put themselves in diametric opposition to whatever is popping in the club right now. I remember, like, you could ask somebody what they like in 97 and they'd be like, not Puff Daddy. I was like, that was not an answer. It's really not an answer.
I want to
now.
go on record. I was not instead of Puff Daddy. I never liked Puff.
But, I just think that's what it is. There's sometimes it's like, oh, you bourgeois club rappers talking about champagne and strip clubs. Yet, I'm about the culture and about the real people out there. You're trying to almost sell yourself to, it's class warfare. Let's just call it what it is.
Yeah.
Sure, it is. But at the same time, there are people that literally exist in those microcosms, if you will.
Yeah.
There are people that don't listen to any club music. There are people that do not stray from that particular type of thing. And I think what Ray is doing here specifically is saying, I exist over here. We still exist over here. There is a group of this type of thing that exists. So come find us if you want it. And it goes back to the first thing that I said too. Like these things have always existed. There's always been the multiple things. There's definitely a bunch of people that do like both, that enjoy the club music and enjoy this over here and enjoy, the escapism that you were talking about. Yeah. But there are people that enjoy all the variety of things. And I think that's cool. I think it's fine. But I also do think that it's sometimes when places like this exist or people like this, the Ray Vaughns, like sometimes we as humans need to classify things in a particular type of way in our heads, in our brains, right? Just kind of how we're wired.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think that when we just talked about mass appeal and how they are kind of classifying, organizing this section of hip hop together, it's making it easier for people to find that, to go to it.
Good point.
And I feel like that other organizations can do the same thing for the different, we're not very platform specific anymore outside of like fake social media platforms, but like I think there's a place for platforms that platform specific things, like the blog era and stuff like that, for people that want to consume the specific types of things. I think playlisting was kind of a interesting thing, but then I don't know. This goes down a whole nother conversation around gatekeeping and stuff like that, which I don't really want to get into right now. But I do think that I think that's kind of a necessary thing. I don't really think it's a bad thing.
I think what was dope, or this is something that stood out to me from the actual clip, is the fact that he took the time to use his platform to shout out peers that were also a part of his lane. I think sometimes we don't see people, give out those flowers to their peers, especially when you're being interviewed on a certain type of platform. Revolt's big enough of a platform, along with Ray Vaughn being who he is, for people to pay attention. I mean, we paid attention. We looked at the clip. Yeah. So I think it's dope that he mentioned other artists, and probably 2 or 3 of them I didn't know who they were.
I ain't never heard of these people.
But that helps me go do my research now. And I just wanted to, ask you guys what you thought about that, because I think that's dope to have a up and coming artist shout out his peers that are in his sector, if you will. Yeah. On a platform. I thought that was dope.
It's cool. I see it on a regular basis, though. I wouldn't say that I don't see that.
You see people giving people other artists love on a consistent basis?
More than not.
I would say more often nowadays.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe I ain't tapped in. That's fair.
Because he's pretty much trying to align himself with, if you listen to this artist, then you'll probably rock with me too.
Yeah. Good point,
Terry. You know what I'm saying?
That's a good point.
I mean, Doechie's a label mate for him. So
good point, Terry. That's a good point.
Hey, and to your pitch situation, there's nothing wrong with pitching yourself.
Absolutely not.
Yep. You know what I'm saying? You should every opportunity that you have, you should pitch yourself. I mean, that's how people get deals done. That's how things happen. Is you actually pitching yourself. So what he's doing, if he's using that platform to do that, so be it. I mean, he's doing a good job. Yeah. I mean, we've heard Ray Vaughn. We were hip to him before the whole Joey Badass thing.
That part.
But him getting more people interested in him is exactly what he's supposed to be doing on that platform.
Yeah. So go ahead. Real quick to what Lone was saying about categorization. You are right. It's actually hardwired. If you get into the neurology, it's a fight or flight or freeze response, because it's a survival thing. If we can figure out where things belong, then we feel like we're safer. So for humans to bring that up, it makes sense. That's natural to want to try to figure out, where does this fit? Where does that fit? So it's, but in hip hop, sometimes you get criticized for that, like trying to separate things, but like that's a very natural human behavior. It helps us make sense of stuff. So every time I hear it, it makes sense to me, because like that is, I mean, we all do that. Like, people that, if you've ever seen anybody segment their food on their plate, like they're going to put the greens over here, they're going to put the black eyed peas over here, the cornbread over here, and they eat them in segments. That's just a natural
I think
human behavior.
And I think with that too, I think Jay's point about both points that you guys made about the classism essentially within it. I think that's also, it's juxtaposed in there as well, though. It doesn't mean that those things don't exist.
Right.
You know what I mean? But
that's an important, this is an important line of discussion, though. I'm glad to, this is why I like being here, man. I'm glad to be a part of that. Like I still teach my class, about hip hop on Monday nights, over at Butler, not really a pitch, but just reality. But I will say that, this space that is occupied here by New Old Heads is a open space. Because a lot of podcasts revolve around more trying to sell people something. At the end of the day, it feels like it's more of like just a lot of sales, almost like a 3:00 in the morning kind of infomercial. Yeah. But here, like, that discussion is very important, because that creates even another openness that people can have to hip hop. Just like it doesn't have to be this. But I also think some of that is like being in between. Of like, I was hanging out with cats that got felonies, and I was hanging out with cats that was honor students, and listening to the way the rap would work. I'm thankful that that's the experience that I had.
And having actual relationships with these people.
Yeah, because like when Jeezy was popping, I mean, that's like 04, 05. Jeezy was everywhere if you were in those places. Yeah. And then Lupe was out at the same time too, and Kanye was getting bigger. So there's this, it felt like polar, but like really it was just, you go to the club, certain clubs, that's what you was gonna hear Jeezy. You wasn't gonna hear no kick push. And it wasn't that anybody like didn't like it. It's just like, dog, that's not running in here Saturday night.
Yeah, like, back then I actually seen Kanye at the fairgrounds.
06,
and Jeezy in the Mecca.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They were both popping at the exact same time.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think there's an unfair assumption that the people who went to the Mecca don't listen to Kanye. That was like, that's always been my thing. I'm like, that's unfair, man.
Yeah.
Just, you know,
because quite honestly, like you know, the people with the felonies, you know, I know some of them too.
Way to categorize them.
They were leaning towards
you know,
Lupe, and I just remember the people who went to college and considered themselves professional and you know had their little corporate jobs. Those were the people who were at the Jeezy concert.
Camp and the Snowman.
Yeah,
I was there.
Come on now.
One of the things I really did appreciate, and this is just goes back
escapism.
Yeah, once again,
in a different way.
In a different way, I'm escaping to that.
Last time I checked,
but I appreciate the fact that he did shout out, these other artists he felt was in his lane, because he could have used that time to just shit on what is not.
For sure.
Him, and like sometimes that's the unfortunate when we talk about the classism, where we wind up speaking so much more about the things that we do not enjoy, and calling out names making people almost not just a sales pitch for you, but making you feel some type of way because you like that music and you should come over here if you are in a place where you should know better. And like you don't want to ever get to the point where you're pointing your finger, even in a way sometimes you are. When you're pointing your finger at a potential audience member, be like, because like that's where some of the resentment comes from, especially from artists from the South. Because for a long time, especially if you were on the East, you just didn't get any love. It was like, get that country rap tune foolishness out of here. And the thing is, like, Pip C would always big up like how he loved artists from New York.
True.
But it was like there wasn't that same reciprocation. It's the same thing for the West Coast, because he would talk about, hey, East Coast comes out here, we roll out the red carpet. We go to New York and we get booed at the Apollo.
It's kind of like a scarcity type mindset in a way,
Elitism.
Yeah, there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things working in that whole conversation, like the whole dynamic, the geographic location of rap. That is a whole. It's your country cousin thing versus like it's a whole kind of